this is my 2 cents if I lived in the situation. Not being a dick. Clearly your mom does not care about you that much. I'd find a job or 2 or even 3 that would let you stack money. I would not tell my parents. I would not tell my sister. I would just be out all day working because you're young and because you can. I would stack as much money as possible, and on the side, I would also start getting credit. All right, so answering more Reddit posts, and I came across this one literally on the first page. I just opened up Reddit, and this was on the first page. The title of it is, I'm 21 and broke and barely surviving. Now, this is a super long post, so I am gonna put it in this video, like piece by piece as I read along. But what I'm gonna do, just because it's so long, and I haven't read it all yet, but what I'm gonna do because it's so long, I'm just gonna sit there and try to like give my 2 cents on each particular part as it comes up. Mainly because I think that if I read through the whole thing, it might make the video a bit too complicated, and I might struggle to really find a good place to start. So I think it might be a little bit easier just to kind of pick everything out point by point and really give my 2 cents on what he can do in each individual paragraph. And hopefully by the end of this video, it'll at least turn into a relatively concrete plan. Now, this post caught my attention. I like to give stories and I like to give things about my own life to kind of give context to where I'm getting my advice from. This caught my attention. For anyone that is not familiar with this story, or for anyone that hasn't watched a lot of my videos or seen me on other podcasts, when I was about 21 to 24-ish, 23, 24-ish, I was kind of in and out of college. I went to Penn State, as you can probably tell from the hat. Went to Penn State, and on multiple occasions, I was told to not come back because I still owed money for tuition. During that time period, it was quite difficult because as a college student who is told not to come back abruptly, I don't think I was in a good position when it came to understanding finances, understanding how to take care of myself, understanding how to be an adult. I was not in a good position to thrive. And so those couple years were quite difficult from every perspective, from a health perspective, from a financial perspective, and certainly from a relationship perspective. And I mean that when it came to girls and when it came to just general platonic making friends with people as a whole. It was tough. But there was a lot of lessons I learned in that time period, and there's a lot of strategies that I picked up that I don't see many people talk about, which makes me believe that many people have not lived that type of experience, which is why I like to give my 2 cents on topics such as these. So when I was kind of going through that situation, there was a lot of like little things I did to make money, save money, get by. I wasn't thriving, but I think for me, it's been a unique grind, so to speak, because at the time when I was kind of going through this phase, I had 2 jobs. I had a lot of jobs, but I had primarily 2 semi-part-time jobs. I say semi-part-time jobs because sometimes it was full-time hours and then sometimes it was part-time hours. It was not consistent, so it just kind of depended. But usually I worked at a gas station and I also worked at a bar. At the bar, I was a dishwasher, and then after a few months, I also became kind of a busser on the side. And at the gas station, I was just sales associate, if you want to call it that. I worked at the till. I worked at the cash register. That was pretty much it. So I would say relatively unique circumstances, especially compared to most people I've interacted with. Most people I've interacted with have not gone through any of those situations. And if they have, it wasn't long-term or they had lots of help. I didn't have that much help, which is a good thing. It was a fantastic thing. I learned a lot of lessons. So again, I'm going to read through this, go point by point and give my 2 cents and kind of take the mindset of if I were in his situation, what would I do? So like I said, the title, I'm 21 and broke and barely surviving. I'm going to be as straightforward as possible. I'm 21 years old and live with my mom and little sister. I don't have a father and we are poor. We live in Oakland, California. I'm going to say this. I do not know how much Oakland, California, what the cost of living is. California, I understand, is expensive. Oakland, to my knowledge, is not it's not a thriving area. And again, I don't know California that well, but to my knowledge, Oakland's it's a pretty poor area, if I'm not mistaken. So I imagine the cost of living is a bit cheaper just because it's not a wealthy area. I have nothing going on in my life. I work part-time on weekends, typically making $200 a week, living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so $200 a week, so he's making about $800 per month. I've tried getting more hours at my job, but that's not an option, and I've been applying to other jobs with no success. Okay, now right here, I'm gonna say a few things. I'm curious to know what jobs he's been applying to. I'm curious to know how he's been applying. For example, he says that he's applying to different jobs and he's been unsuccessful. Does the lack of success come from maybe a bad background, like maybe a criminal background? Is he applying to jobs that are just outside of his, say, education level? Like maybe he's applying to entry-level jobs for college graduates when he's not graduated from college, maybe. Does he have a bad resume? There's not a lot of context yet. He might go into it more as the post goes on, but I just find it a little bit interesting that he's been applying to jobs with no success. And I'm not saying that it's impossible. Funny enough, when I was in college and I first got my initial letter to leave the school, I applied to a lot of like really low quality jobs and did not get responses. It stunned me. Like I remember I actually had to put in a lot of effort to get the job at a gas station. Believe it or not, someone who was in college had to put in a lot of effort to get a job at a gas station. I literally remember, and I'm not taking away from this post, but I do want to share the story to give context to his situation, or to give context into my advice as we go through his situation. I remember I applied to a movie theater, I applied to work at bars, I applied to, like I said, gas stations, Walmart, a lot of different places. A lot of places did not call me back at all, none. I remember after about a month or two of just applying to a lot of places, this gas station named called Snappy's, which is eventually one of the main places I worked at, randomly called me and they said, hey, we're willing to do an interview. If you're available like today, come by and we'll interview you. And I remember like I was in the middle of something. I just dropped what I was doing. They said I can come like an hour and I wasn't sure what the bus schedule was. I remember this because it was so stressful. Like at the time it was so stressful. I didn't know what the schedule was for the bus and I didn't want to like catch it and then have the bus like go the opposite direction because I wasn't that familiar with how the buses worked at the time because I never rode the bus. I used to walk like everywhere. So I dropped everything I was doing. I remember I was just wearing like t-shirt and jeans. I wasn't like dressed because they didn't give me much time. And I walked like all the way across campus. The Snappies, if you're familiar with Penn State, this might make more sense to you, but there was this main Snappies where the interviews were held, and it was way off campus in this place. It was like Arlington Boulevard. I think it was like Arlington Boulevard, something like that. Or I'm mixing up streets, actually. Doesn't matter. It was across campus. I had to walk all the way across campus and then walk about 20 minutes past that. And I wanted to be on time. I wanted to be early, but I was trying to at least be on time. And I didn't know, and to like cut across campus can take like 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, depending on how fast you walk. Took me about 30 minutes, and I'm like not sprinting, but I'm like jogging the entire way. I literally jogged all the way to this like gas station. Could you imagine like jogging to get a job at a gas station? They pay you like nothing. You're putting in all this effort. I jogged all the way through campus, through the city, because at this point you're off campus, and at this point I'm just walking like kind of in these areas where you shouldn't be walking, where there's cars everywhere, all the way to get to this gas station because I didn't have a car. Finally get there. I kind of got there with like 5 minutes to spare, and it was such a like fast interview. They just did like math problems. They're like, can you do these basic math problems, and what would you do in this situation and all this. It was easy. It was just basics. It was super easy stuff. Took like 10 minutes at the interview. Then they called me back like a week or two later and said, okay, you got the job. You'll start now. All right, you're starting this date. But I bring this up just because I feel the pain of this. A lot of people think that just because you apply to like really shitty jobs, you just get the job. I don't know what it is. I think a lot of these hiring people are just inefficient at different companies. I just think they're inefficient. I applied to so many jobs and never got a call back. Even like Walmart I applied to, and it took them forever to give me a call back. It was such a long process. I remember I applied to a movie theater and I worked there twice. No, not even twice, once. I worked there once. And after my first shift, the guy said, okay, it was a good shift. We'll call you back and we'll set up time we'll give you your actual schedule. And I came back from my actual schedule and nothing was on it. And he said, oh yeah, we'll send it to you by email. He never sent it by email. He never sent my schedule. And I remember coming back with my buddy And I was like, hey, did you have my email? Did you get the right email? Maybe I gave you the wrong one or something, or maybe it went to spam. I don't really know. Because I've been looking for it to work because I needed money bad. I had rent to pay and like food I needed to eat. And he never sent it to me ever. And he kept like delaying it. Eventually I just figured, he never officially even fired me. I just figured, okay, he doesn't want me to work for him. So I guess I'll just find another job. So eventually I walked into, a lot of my friends at the time worked at this bar called Kildare's. And I didn't even bring a resume. I just really needed more money. And some friends of mine had quit. They worked as a dishwasher. And everyone kept quitting the dishwashing job because dishwashing's tough. Dishwashing's hard. And I think if you work at a relatively fast-paced bar or restaurant, it's brutal because you don't get a break. Like every office job I've ever worked for, you get breaks, you can kind of coast, you can kind of like zone out. It's not that difficult and you make a lot more money. Dishwashing, at least at this bar, was not that way at all. From the time I got in to the time I finished, I was dishwashing and you're just going fast. It's not even like the slower casual pace. It's just like you're moving quickly, spray down the thing, you wipe it down, put it in the machine, spray it down, put it in the machine, spray it down, put it in the machine. You're doing that the entire time. And you kind of get stressed out because if you take a minute to like take a break, then the dishes pile up. Because my goal is always to at least be like relatively on pace. Like my goal is to have like very few dishes to wash and to definitely not let them stack up. Because once it stacks up, it gets to be it's just a huge mess. It's just a pain. I tried my best not to do that. It was almost impossible. Because the moment you take a break to eat, and I would eat quick, the moment you take a break to eat, by the time you finish your like 15 minutes or 30 minutes of eating, boom, dishes are back. Because by the time you eat, it's probably during like lunchtime rush. It's just terrible. Not to go on a huge tangent and tell the story, but it's awful. But the only reason why I got that job, not to stray away from what I was trying to say, the only reason why I got that job is because I knew people that knew the manager. A lot of my friends had just quit the dishwashing position. Me being like an arrogant asshole who thought, I could do better than them, was like, oh, these guys quit after like a month. After a month, they quit. I'm a G. I'm going to go in there and work for at least a year as a dishwasher, which I did. Went in there, said to the guys, like, yeah, I need a job. I heard you have a dishwashing position open. He was actually mad cool. And he said to me, he was like, have you ever washed dishes before, like with these machines? And I was like, no, but I can learn like super fast. He's like, all right, if you want to start like tomorrow, you can come in. I'll show you the machines. I'll show you how everything works and we can get started. And I was like, just like that? He's like, yeah, just like that. Came in the next day, started working, boom, done. But I say all of this long story was to say, this person might need to like, if he's, depending on where he's at, if he's a college graduate, then maybe I don't recommend this. But it might be more helpful if he's just trying to get like a small like job at the mall or like a gas station type job or something small. Just walk in and say you need a job and they'll probably just give you a job on the spot. Because I truly think that a lot of these people who do the resumes, they're probably just inefficient and they probably get overwhelmed with people. And they're just picking at random, essentially. They're not picking for the best quality. They're just picking what stands out. And essentially that makes it a lottery. So, like I said, what I'd probably do if you're making $200 a week, $800 a month, I'd probably find some like part-time job or a full-time job, hopefully full-time job, that pays you a little bit more. And I would just go in and ask for the job. Assuming it's not a job that requires like a degree, I would just go in and ask for the job so you can start immediately. And chances are they'll give you the job. One more thing actually, because at one point I was trying to quit my job at the gas station to make more money because the gas station paid me like $8.50, which wasn't cutting it. And it was very brutal working at a gas station almost full time and then working as a dishwasher and busser almost full time. It's not a fun experience at all. So I was trying to like cut my workload down to make more money because I think the dishwashing job paid me like $11 an hour and the car wash, or I'm sorry, the gas station paid me like $8 an hour. Which does not equal $19 an hour. Some people are gonna say, well, it's $19 an hour. No, it's not, because it all depends on how much you're getting, how many shifts you're getting. And you often don't get full-time shifts. So it's not 19 an hour. It's probably more like 14-ish an hour, 15 an hour when you really sit there and think about the amount of time you work. Anyway, I tried to reduce my workload and find an easier job that paid more. Eventually found out that Halloween City was opening like seasonally. I was kind of desperate to just stop doing those two jobs. Started working at Halloween City, came up in a suit, because I had a suit, walked up in a suit, said that I would learn any job you give me on the spot. I'm super happy to do it. Walked in, the guy said I can start immediately, gave me the job like on the spot, he gave me my resume, gave me the job. And then there was another guy that had been working at Party City long term for like 5 years or so. And he was giving that guy the job of assistant manager. And that guy was paranoid. He didn't want to do it. He was scared of the responsibility. And I said, I can do it. And he's like, have you ever worked a manager position before? I said, no, but I can learn really fast. And I'm good. When I was in college, I had a leadership position. I said, I can learn the job pretty quickly. Give me like a week and I'll show you what I can do. I did it. He gave me the position, which was scary because I was pretty much, the lady working with me, she was a terrible manager. So it's pretty much me managing a whole Halloween city on a college campus. And it was huge. What they did is they converted this like Abercrombie into a Halloween city. And if you've ever seen like the old Abercrombies, how they are, like Abercrombie and Fitch, like you walk in and it's two separate sections, one section for like men, one for women. Then there's like this back section where they usually keep like the extra clothing. And then in the very far back is like a fitting room. It was a really big Abercrombie and Fitch that they converted into a Halloween city. So I worked that. But again, it was just for me just like showing up and just saying like, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I can learn really fast. I have the skills. I'm confident. And I think if this guy tries that, I think it would work out pretty well for him. Let's see. I don't have a driver's license. I passed the written exam and got my driver's permit last year. I pestered my mom to teach me to drive, and in the entire year I had my permit, she took me out 3 times, and not even once in traffic. All 3 times in parking lots, just driving around in circles and going with my basic controls. My permit has since expired, and my driving experience / knowledge is basically still 0. I'm aware this is important for finding a good job, and it seems the simplest way of saying it is I'm fucked when it comes to this. Okay, so yeah, as far as like driving goes, I'm mixed on this. I don't know the layout of Oakland where he lives. Some places I found you do need to, if you want to get a good job, you do need to drive because you have to commute. There are some jobs nowadays where you can find remote. You can do like remote work, data entry, maybe like a virtual assistant, things like that. I'd recommend he try that. Maybe finding a job that's solely remote, even if it pays little. As long as it pays more than what he's making now, or if it's a job that pays the same and he can work overtime, I think that would still be a better option. And if he can do 2 jobs that are online or remote, I think, again, that's a better option than what he's doing now, especially if he can't drive. The driving thing's tough because, again, I don't know the situation, but it seems like he needs to rely on his mom to help him drive, and she seems too busy to help him, which is to a degree out of his control. If he can walk to his job, assuming it's not too dangerous, that's an option too. I wouldn't just, if I were him, I wouldn't count myself out just because you can't drive. There are ways to get around that. There's lots of ways to get around that. You don't need to drive technically. It will make life more difficult, but if you're struggling that bad, you don't really have much of a choice. And if she can't help you get your permit, unless you can find some other adult or someone else of age to help you, then there's not much you can do about that. Plus, by the time you do get your permit, you still have to get your license and you still have to get a car, which is going to cost you money. And it's going to require at least you saving up. So I don't know if I'd really put that much effort into getting the car or the permit or the license right now. It seems like so far at least, it seems like the main thing he should be doing is just finding more income. And again, I would find that by just walking to someplace close that pays a decent wage, or by just trying to find work online that he can do from home. Even if it's not even if it's not a high paying job, I think it's still better than where he's at now. And you can always stack jobs. You can always work more than one job. Let's see. My mom is hardly home. She works in San Francisco and often stays over a friend's house. I'm going to be honest, I like it. It feels like I live alone 80% of the time. It's peaceful. Besides the fact I have to pay for everything myself in my life with only $200 a week, I'm usually dead broke a day or 2 before my next paycheck hits. So I'm literally living paycheck to paycheck, more like surviving. Okay, so I'd figure out what you spend. That'd be the first thing. This is what I did back in the day. He makes $200 a week, so he makes about $800 a month. He says that he's usually about broke before his next paycheck hits. So he's living paycheck to paycheck because he's pretty much spending all $800. I would get the exact amount that you spend, first of all, and I would find a way to reduce it as best as I can. That's literally my suggestion. Again, when I was kind of in between college, I was in this exact same position where I was living like paycheck to paycheck. And me and a buddy, we both had like no money. It was my roommate at the time. What we did is we literally sat there and we calculated how much food we need to eat to get like all of our calories in and all that stuff. We'd go to the grocery store, to Walmart, and we'd literally sit there and figure out like, by cost, how can we reduce this as much as possible while not sacrificing our calories? And of course, when you're young, you can get away with a lot of stuff. So a lot of our diets were like ramen, pancake mix, because pancake mix is cheaper by the ounce than actually buying like frozen pancakes. Like if you buy frozen pancakes, it might cost like $3 for like 12 pancakes. If you buy pancake mix, you can make a lot of pancakes and it costs like $2 for pancake mix. So it's cheaper. Ramen, I think I said ramen. Oatmeal, super cheap. You can buy a box of oatmeal for like $3. Oatmeal lasts for a long time, especially if you add a lot of water and it'll fill you up pretty quickly. That was pretty much what we did. Like whatever was super cheap, tuna, super cheap. You can buy tuna for like 80 cents a can. Don't go too crazy with tuna because you can get mercury poisoning from it. But I would take time, like take a few hours if I were this guy, figure out what you spend money on, and then just figure out how to eliminate those costs or reduce it as much as possible. Really figure out the alternative that allows you to buy groceries super cheap while not sacrificing too many calories and while not just destroying your health, because you got to keep your health up. But you might have to make a little bit of a sacrifice on high quality food versus just decent food. Hopefully that makes sense. Due to my inability to drive and buy groceries, I'm basically living off of fast food / takeout and processed foods I buy from vending machines at work. Okay, there we go, right there. That's the problem. That's the big problem right there. Fast food, even though it seems cheaper, it adds up. So it's more expensive to get fast food consistently than it is to buy your own food. And there's really no excuse for him not to be buying food. Some might say, well, he doesn't have a car. When I was in a similar position, I didn't have a car either. We just Ubered. We Ubered to the grocery store, got what we needed, and then called Uber back. If the grocery store is not far, and it shouldn't be far, because grocery stores are pretty much everywhere. It doesn't have to be a fancy grocery store. It could be like Lidl, it could be Aldi, it could be Walmart, it can be just like a general like small chain grocery store with like offshoot products. It doesn't need to be fancy. But there's probably a grocery store relatively close. If you Uber, it'll probably cost you like 10, 15 bucks to get there, 10, 15 bucks back. That's 30 bucks plus whatever it costs to get groceries. I would spend, since you're by yourself and your mom's not even home, 50 bucks on food. 50 bucks to buy a lot of food. People think it won't, it will. You can't buy fancy foods. You can buy a lot of ramen, you can buy a lot of oatmeal, you can buy a lot of tuna, you can buy a lot of bread, a lot of lunch meat, a lot of cereal, a lot of basic stuff with 50 bucks. So I would do that. No more vending machine stuff, no more fast food, no more of that processed stuff you buy at work, none of that. I'm very frugal with my purchases, and I try to always get the food that'll fill me up the most for the cheapest price. But you're not. You're really not. If you're getting like fast food, you're not. I'm gonna tell you this right now, because I still get fast food sometimes, because sometimes I just like the taste of it. If I get McDonald's, like 2 McDoubles and like fries will cost me about 10 bucks. If you get frozen ground beef, you can get ground beef for 15 bucks for a big case of ground beef. All a hamburger is ground beef and a bun and maybe some vegetables, but really it's just ground beef and a bun. You can buy bread for like a whole dozen slices of bread or whatever. I don't know how they're packaged, but you can buy a lot of bread for like 2 bucks a loaf. Ground beef, 10 bucks, 15 bucks, 20 bucks, depending on the size of the actual frozen roll. That'll last you a long time. One McDonald's meal for 10 bucks, you're getting 2 meals at the same cost of you just getting like bread and ground beef. Hopefully that like makes sense. So he's not being as frugal as he could be. He can definitely be a lot more frugal. My kitchen's literally empty, so I order delivery often. Again, this is where it's coming from. This is why he's living paycheck to paycheck. He's spending money on things that he should not be spending money on. Cut out all this stuff, and you'll start saving a lot more money, my dude. I always check apps for discounts and deals before buying anything. People think I'm skinny because I go to the gym. In reality, I'm starving. This is all personal problems now, because if you just bought groceries, you wouldn't be starving like that. You'd have more money. And even if you don't want to do Lyft or Uber to pick up the groceries, a lot of places now like Walmart or even like DoorDash, you can get people to shop for you. I think there's like I forget what it's called. There's an app that people use to have people go shop for them and bring the groceries to you. So there's really no excuse to not get actual groceries, even without a car. I'm not sure if you can tell, but everything going on is fucking my mental health badly. I've been living this way for nearly a year. I see so many other people my age and even younger people doing well for themselves. Meanwhile, I'm living like this. Stop comparing. Comparing yourself to other people will not help you. It'll make things worse. And you don't even know how people truly are living anyway. So stop comparing. It will not benefit you in the situation. My living situation is bad. My mom and sis don't clean up after themselves. Every room in the house is a mess except mine. Flies and roaches everywhere, unwashed dishes, etc. The shower randomly stopped working a few months ago. It runs bath water, but I can't choose the temperature. So I've been having cold baths to bathe myself these past few months. As of 4 days ago, my apartment has been without electricity. My mom hadn't paid the bills, and now the total owed is around $3K. She never mentioned needing help with the bill, nor did she ever let me know that they would just shut off our electricity out of the blue. This is the first time. I'm kind of skimming through a little bit. Now I don't have friends or extended family. I appreciate your time. Okay, so this is my 2 cents if I live in the situation. Not being a dick. Clearly your mom does not care about you that much. She's not a good mom. I'm going to be brutally honest about this because one, you said that she always stays in San Francisco. So clearly she's not willing to bear the pain of what she's causing you as far as like not paying for electricity or leaving the house a mess. Your sister seems more or less in the same boat. It doesn't seem like she's very responsible. So it's up to you to be the responsible one. Now, again, in this situation, what I would do, as of now, you don't have hot water. You don't really have electricity. You do have internet because you wrote this message on Reddit. So you do have some internet. I'd find a job or 2 or even 3 that would let you stack money. I would not tell my parents. I would not tell my sister. I would just be out all day working because you're young and because you can. I would stack as much money as possible. And on the side, I would also start getting credit. If you don't already, he didn't mention anything about credit, but I would get a credit card. If he doesn't have credit, because that could come up, he might have a credit card. And sometimes if you're young like that, you might have to get, usually people think you have to get a cosigner to open up a credit card. You probably could. Chances are your mom's not responsible enough, so she probably has bad credit, I would imagine. And I wouldn't rely on her anyway. What I would do is, after you start working, I would take about $200 to $500, set it aside, go to a bank and open up what's called a secured credit card. If you open up a secured credit card, you can use that money, say for example, $500 as a down payment. That'll be your credit limit. That $500 will be your credit limit. From there, I would start using the credit card slightly just to buy groceries, Always have cash on hand, but I would use that to buy groceries, say like $50, $100 to buy groceries, and I would pay it off instantly. And the reason why you're going to start doing this is because you're going to start building up credit by using that secured credit card and by paying it off instantly. It'll look good on your credit score. And once you do this for about, say, 4 to 8 months, depending on how bad it is and how much money you can stack up in a relatively short amount of time, after about 4 to 8 months, I would move. I would find my own place. I would move. If you have to find a roommate, if you have to find someone that you know and crash on their couch, I would do it. If you have to, I don't know, make new friends, live with them, do Airbnb and live like month to month, whatever, I would do it. I'd get the fuck out of that house because it's not a good condition. It's not a good environment for you to thrive. It's hurting you. But you have to get out. The credit score will help you get an actual apartment. Again, I don't know the cost of things in Oakland. Maybe it's really expensive. I do not know. You might have to get a roommate. In that situation, there are websites like, I think, Facebook Marketplace, you can find roommates relatively easily. There are websites, off the top of my head, I can't think of too many, but I think one of them is like roommatefinder.com or something, where you can find people who want to find roommates and you guys live together and sign a lease together. That's an option. Craigslist can be a bit sketchy, but Craigslist is also an option to find a roommate. Regardless of what you do, you need to find a roommate. That's my recommendation. Or if you can find something that's relatively inexpensive and something that you can pay off consistently, then I would just save up for a down payment and get an apartment to yourself. And then that'll take care of most of the problems. That'll take care of you not having hot water. That'll take care of you not having electricity. That'll take care of you not being in a clean environment. And that'll let you live alone 100% of the time, as you seem to like. You seem to like living by yourself. And this is, again, assuming you can't get a roommate. If you can get a roommate, I'd recommend a roommate because you can save more money by having a roommate. And then from that point on, bro, it's all on you. I would work as much as I can while you're young. I would stack up as much money as possible. I would be doing my routine, like I just said, eventually, like use your credit card to buy small things like groceries, pay it off instantly. After about a year or so, you're going to be able to get rid of that secured credit card and open up an actual credit card, I would do it. I would open up the actual credit card, and from that point on, I would just keep getting more credit cards, keep increasing your line of credit because you're going to need as much credit as possible in the grand scheme of life. I'd keep increasing my credit. I wouldn't use the credit. I would just get the credit. Like, keep building up credit, keep asking for more, keep asking for higher credit limits, and keep opening up more credit cards. Then over time, what you're going to do, you're going to keep saving money. You're going to go find people, either find a friend or pay somebody to drive with you to get to fulfill your permit obligations. I don't know the exact rules behind how many hours you have to drive to get your permit or whatever, but I would either find like a driving teacher or go to a driving school or find some way to pay someone. That's probably the best option. Go to a driving school, pay a driving teacher to get your hours in, and then eventually get your license, and then eventually get a car. And since you've already built up credit, and since you're working all these jobs, you'll have the cash to buy a car. I wouldn't actually buy a car with like a loan. I would save up like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6K and just buy like a Honda Civic or like some car that's reliable and that doesn't require a lot of maintenance, but is relatively cheap. Does that make sense? And by the time you go through all that, you should be out of the situation. Is it going to be easy to do? No. Is it doable? Absolutely. Totally doable. You're not that deep in yet, I would say, where you have no options. I think the hardest thing about all this is going to be the mindset aspect of it. You're going to have to really like stick in there, have a strong, durable mind, and not allow your negative emotions to get to you. Because I think the negative emotions getting to you is going to be the thing that's going to really affect you the most. One final thing, because I see some edits. My mom has warned me for a year now that we could be evicted at any moment. It kind of feels like she's implying she hasn't paid our rent in a long time. It concerns me, but I don't know what to think about it because it doesn't make sense. I'm not homeless yet. Either way, I'm pretty close to it. If she didn't pay the rent, I mean, there's not much you can do. If you get a job, I guess you can offer to pay some of the rent. That's risky because, again, no offense to you and your mom, man. Your mom does not seem responsible. She seems like she'd screw you over. She's already screwing you over, but it definitely seems like she'd screw you over more if you start paying the rent and she start to rely on you, and she'd probably take advantage of you. And that's not a good route to go down. I think, I mean, me personally, I think what I'd probably do is try my best to just stack money. Probably right now, call some buddies, let them know you might get evicted, and just try to prepare yourself to live with them if that does happen. That's what I would probably do. I would not rely on my mom at all. She seems very irresponsible. And I would prepare for the worst, to be honest. I know that sounds grim, but I would prepare for the worst as far as getting evicted. I will say it takes a while to evict people a lot of times. Eviction laws tend to favor the tenants more than the landlords. So you might not get evicted right away. I would use that to your advantage. Since you did not, to my knowledge, sign the lease, maybe you are on the lease because you're above 21 or because you're above 18. But if you're not on the lease, it won't hurt your credit. It won't really do much to you besides you not having a place to live. But yeah, I wouldn't. I would just expect the worst, and I would roll with it. Edit 2. Edit 2. My sister's 11, but she's taken care of. She's not in a situation such as mine. I'd be interested to know more about that. Why is she taken care of, but you aren't? Does she have a different father, maybe? If she does have a different father, is he not willing to help you out? I'd be interested to know more about that situation, because that could be a way out for you as well. Edit 3, for those of you bluntly and rudely telling me to go find another job, that's great advice. Thank you. I'm actually looking. As if that wasn't obvious and I didn't say it in the first paragraph. Yeah, easier said than done. Definitely agree. I said that earlier. You can't just find a job sometimes. People tend to think you can. It's not always a fast process. It's not always a simple process. A lot of companies and a lot of organizations are inefficient with their hiring. That's just the way it is. Just charged up my phone and it's absolutely blowing up from all your responses. And I'm very grateful that you all took the time to read and comment. Sorry for not being active and replying. I'm heading into work right now, but as soon as I'm off the clock, I'm going to read and respond to all of your messages. Okay, so yeah, I gave all my 2 cents. Yeah, is this situation tough to get out of? Sure, but is it impossible? By no means. It's very possible to get out of it. I think he just needs to work hard and work fast and have a plan. I'm sure that he'll never see this video, but if he does, always feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help as much as I can. and we can work to help get you out of the situation. But yeah, hopefully this video helps somebody else that might be in a similar situation. If it did, please click the like button. Please leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought about this. Let me know if you have any other strategies that you might find beneficial if you were helping out this young man. And if you liked the video, also please be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of March. So your subscription would help a ton. But yeah, until the next video, I will see you. Peace out. Bye.